Jay, your team, at this stage, everybody wants to play great games. It doesn't happen every night, but you're winning games. And how much do you look at the out-of-town scoreboard at this time as a coach? Can you avoid it, or do you see yourself, Vegas and the Kings are the 3 best teams in the month of March, and you just haven't made much ground despite playing really well?
Yeah, well, I would say that we don't do a whole lot of scoreboard watching, in the sense that we're not concerned about what other teams are doing. That doesn't mean we're not aware of what's going on around the league or the Pacific Division. I mentioned yesterday how 2 out of the top 3 teams in the Pacific Division are 8-2 in their last 10. One of them's 8-0-2. So we're aware of that. Like, we understand that, but we put our focus and our concentration on our game, making sure that our game's going to be ready when it counts. And in our last 10 games, we haven't been perfect, but we are 8-2. We have beaten teams like Toronto, Boston, Dallas, Winnipeg, Seattle, all playoff position teams. So there's lots of good, but there's lots of areas of improvement as well.
When you say focusing on your game, tonight it's an 8:50 start, so a little bit later than usual. You did have, I think, one last year in the postseason, but how does that change the preparation outside of moving the morning skate back a half an hour?
Yeah, you want to make sure for us that we skated today. Otherwise, it's a really long day. You mentioned last year in the playoffs, but we've actually had 2 games this year, one in Dallas and one in Chicago. We actually had one where it was an 8:50 start, and we had a back-to-back in Minnesota the next night. Those are all things well beyond the control of the coach or well beyond the control of the players. Our job is to be ready, whether it's at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, or 8:52.
You were asked some questions at the trade deadline when Barrie was traded, and you were asked a lot of questions about Bouchard getting more responsibility.
Yep.
The last game, I believe, was only the 4th time in his career he's played over 26 minutes in a game. Now that we've seen him for almost a month, how do you feel he's handling the increased ice time?
Yeah, I think he's had some good moments for sure. I think Ekholm's effect on Bouchard, can't be lost on anybody as well. I think that pairing's been very good. They've been moving pucks. We haven't been perfect in the last 10 games since Ek has been here, like I said. I think in the last 10 games, our power play hasn't been clicking at the average it had been prior. But what I like about it is, with our power play not clicking at its usual rate, we still found a way to find ourselves 8-2. So that's a good thing. I think anytime we can get contributions from multiple players up and down our lineup, whether that's the goaltending position, defense position, or forward position, it makes us for a deeper team.
Morning, Jay. Over here.
Hey, Tony.
Is there one thing that has most surprised you, or maybe you appreciate more now that you've coached Matthias Ekholm for 10 games?
Not surprised. I'd been in the league long enough since he was a rookie. So I had a good understanding of who he was and what he brought to the table. And when asked questions around that time, I was comfortable sharing my opinion of what I thought of the player. Seeing him up close and personal, I think what you do get an appreciation for is Matthias's everyday process. And, I think, we're excited that he scored 2 goals last game, and, in kind of dramatic fashion and how he did it. But I don't see that as Matthias Ekholm's calling card or what he's bringing to the Edmonton Oilers. I see calm, steady, plug him in at 8:52 tonight, turn him off at 11:15. We know what we're getting every day from Matthias Ekholm. I think as a coach, there's comfort in understanding someone's level of consistency like that. And he's come as advertised and as expected.
Hey, Jay. Just want to ask you about Nick Bukestad and how he's fitting in. He's just, again, he's another guy that seems to come in here and fit in really well with your group and basically doing what you're asking him of him.
Yep, low maintenance, veteran, true professional, somebody who gives us size up front, size at the center position, someone who is on our penalty kill, plays on the power play, has found a way to contribute offensively. He's a good hockey player. He's a good addition, and anytime you give coaching staffs, multiple people up front to move around the chessboard, so to speak, I think it makes us a deeper team. Oh, one more here? Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Sorry. You were talking about consistency earlier. Around the league, we've seen a few coaches here and there say publicly that they need more from their top guys. That's a sentence that hasn't been uttered too often at Edmonton.
Yep.
Kind of take it for granted, just not the production that they have, just their measure of consistency. Like McDavid's gone only 7 games out of 71 without a point.
I don't take it for granted at all. We've used that analogy of not being numb to the types of seasons that we're seeing, not only from Connor and Leon. How about two, 29, 30-year-old type guys in Hyman and Nugent Hopkins that have turned in career years this year? I think one of the hallmarks of our top people is that they bring it. They bring it on a night in, night out basis. That is, something that is not unappreciated by their teammates or the coaching staff. The other thing I would say, though, and we've put a lot of time, and I've heard this narrative over a long period of time, it's not just about those guys. How about the career years on some of the others? Or how about when you look at our team, how many double-digit scorers we have? So the load of carrying the offense doesn't just fall on 1 or 2 people here in Edmonton. It gets spread out. I thought we've gotten good minutes up and down the lineup, and that's a credit to our players who, as we've talked about earlier in the press conference, we're not perfect, but we are working to be the best that we can be.